Game 4 on the board, and there are a few things that caught my eye immediately. Mountebank caught my eye immediately, often a strong card on our board. Now there are a few ways to deal with the curses. You have Count and Forge. So Count is definitely more affordable than Forge. If you're lucky, you could open with our Count. Can't open with our Forge so easily. Is that even possible? Yeah, it is possible. But the Count really is the more realistic option for early on in the game here. So there's also University on the board, which I saw. Have quite a few piles to target. Definitely the Treasuries. Be nice to gain. Library, the classic University Library combination. Seems like that is what draws cards here. Much better than the Wishing Well option. So ordinarily, without tax on the board, tax is an influential thing here. I would open perhaps Wishing Well and Potion. Perhaps Wishing Well and Potion. I had a bit of a think and came back and I saw that it was also possible to open with Wishing Well and Silver, which is something I go for here. My opponent goes for Potion and puts tax on the Potion pile, which is a decent play. I will have to pay a lot for the Potion if I want to. So second Wishing Well for me here, and this Wishing Well is guaranteed to draw because I know what the last card in my deck is, and I get up to the 5 for the count. So this was the reason for opening Wishing Well and Silver, to try to get the 5 to count. I knew that getting count early was key, was absolutely key, just to try to control Mr. Mountebank up there. So the count comes out, I trash. On the other hand, my opponent has a couple universities by this point, and he's used one of his unis to gain a count, also recognizing the importance of trashing here. Try for estate there because it was the most plentiful card. 2 out of 4 was estates. Didn't work out that way, and I finally bite the bullet here and pick up the expensive potion. I really would like a university to gain lots of nice things, so there seemed like as good a time as any to get one. So this Wishing Well play for me here actually is going to draw me into my count, which is real good news for me. This is a tremendous turn for me. Not only does it draw me into my count, but I guess correctly with the Wishing Well and pull a copper up. So I get to trash one extra card. But trashing the 3 estates in one swoop like that is emphatic. Absolutely emphatic. The thinness means that my Wishing Wells draw a lot more reliably, at least at this part of the game, and it also means that I'm able to accelerate my deck development, right? So here, I'll buy the uni, even with the 2 deck that I have, and shuffle that in straight away, whereas that's not possible for my opponent, who picked up the count a little bit later than me. So out comes his count, he trashes, he gains a mountebank off the uni there. And that seems like where I also want to go, especially given that he is not as thin as me. This was lucky for me here, these Wishing Wells. This was a lucky draw that I just randomly guessed silver because the top 3 were silver, potion, university. So it was really just a lottery. And I finally get rid of the last 3 coppers from my deck. So I have no more junk cards until my opponent starts putting them back with his mountebank. A game are real reliable at this point. This Wishing Well is guaranteed to draw, and I can also gain and play something with the university as well, which is real sweet, real nice. So I do only have the 1 university, but as compensation, I do have a much thinner deck. On the other hand, I don't have the gaining like my opponent, but I intend to catch up on that front pretty quickly. This here is not a university, however, this is going to be a grand market. I did have enough money. I had 3 from the count, 2 from the mountebank, and 2 from the silver to pick up the grand market, which is extremely important on this board, given that it's the only plus buy. You do have gain in university and forge, but the Grand Market gives you the most flexibility with the plus buy really. So my opponent did manage to junk me with the mountebank there, so that means I have to keep that in mind when guessing with the wishing well. Of course not on this shuffle, but on the next shuffle. Having a curse at the top of the deck here is okay for blocking mountebank. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but oh well. Now 9 here, I considered Grand Market wishing well on this 9, but Pilgrimage has to be better at this point in the game. Pilgrimage absolutely has to be better. Even just gaining Grand Market and Uni off our Pilgrimage is real good. My ideal 3 for the Pilgrimage is Uni, Library, Classic. I need to start using libraries to draw at this point, honestly, because the Wishing Wells are not going to do it with the different cards in my deck. I can't guess reliably with the Wishing Wells. That only lasted for a brief time when the deck was small enough. So Uni, Library, and Grand Market. Those are the 3 that I want out of the Pilgrimage, if possible. My opponent starts in on the libraries as well, and I'm gonna get, this is my second library, I believe. So I'm trying to see if I can draw a library here. I don't manage to draw the library. A bit unfortunate because then I could have made the ideal use of the Pilgrimage is what I felt here. So I get rid of a couple cards and take the money off the count to get my Pilgrimage. So Grand Market, Uni, and I get a walled village here. So on my previous turn, or 2 turns ago, I stalled. I had no villages but mountebank and library in hand. So I'm buying these extra villages to help mitigate that situation. It is pretty easy to stall in this kind of deck. I have some stop cards and my opponent is giving me 2 junk cards whenever he plays his mountebank. So it's the styler deck to the draw to X deck. It is a bit easier to stall with that kind of deck than the village smithy kind of thing. So I really would like a bit of surplus of actions. Here I gain the treasury just because I don't really want to gain the second mountebank yet. I have 3 terminals in my hand here. I would really like to find a village. The treasury doesn't really hurt me finding a village. I know I have lots of villages, I just have to find them, but perhaps it was okay to take the mountebank there, a little too conservative to pick up the treasury, but oh well. Oh well, these are the choices that I made. So now that I'm drawing through lots of the deck, I'm going to pick up a second terminal here, which is actually going to be a Swamp Hag. It perhaps should have been a second mountebank, but I wanted this Swamp Hag just to put a little bit of pressure on my opponent with regard to the curses. He can block the mountebank sometimes, but he can't block the Swamp Hag. If he wants to buy things, he has to go through the Swamp Hag and junk himself with it. So that was my line of thought there with the Swamp Hag. Again, perhaps my second mountebank is just better. The mountebank also enables his library a little bit. It'll cut his hand size and make the library draw more. So there's that slight drawback of the mountebank. I put tax on Grand Market for the second or third time here. It doesn't really do anything. I did that because my opponent didn't have a Grand Market, but I believe he forged into one. So he managed to get around that limitation. So the tax doesn't really do anything to anybody anymore. We've kind of moved past that. The biggest influence is kind of in the opening really. So now I go for a second mountebank. I feel like seeing my cards I can draw through and find a second mountebank and really start flooding my opponent. Like he's already flooded, but I just want to make the deluge even bigger. Even bigger. I'm in a real commanding position here. That turn where I was able to trash 3 estates, 2 coppers out of my deck with the count, that is emphatic. That was like the turning point of the game. Second Swamp Hag here just to always keep that curse pressure on my opponent. $3 is nice too. And what I could have done here is trashed, what I could have done for a long time is keep trashing all these treasure cards and the curses out of my deck. I forgot a little bit that I didn't need the potion to buy universities. I could just use the pilgrimage as I'm doing here to gain them. I gain my ideal 3 and I still have enough money. I pick up a forge. Forge is nice with library as well. It can reduce your hand size. So another point on the villages too is that when you are playing these draw to X type decks, what you would like to do is play a lot of villages up front, play your terminals, and then play the library to decrease your hand size. So lots of villages, Mountebank, Swamp Hag, Count can discard cards in addition to playing itself. Forge maybe, and then you play a library to draw 7 cards. Try to maximize your library. So these kinds of decks, by nature, they want a lot of actions in them. It helps to set up your draw. So it's not okay. It's nice to connect village with library here, but it would be nicer if you could play your library and draw a lot more cards. So really, the surplus of villages is not at all wasted. I feel is not a problem. It just increases your reliability. And at this point, I don't really want to give my opponent a nice big forge turn and let him come back in the game after I stall once or twice. Want to keep on going, keep on building. So here I see an opportunity for a win. If my opponent takes curses off this mountebank, and he does, so he's going to take the last curse, and I'm going to use my universities to gain the remaining walled villages and buy the last few libraries. At this point in the game, I was considering buying a pilgrimage, but not flipping back the token to gain, just holding it there for some pile control towards the end of the game here. But as it turns out, I didn't need to do so. The 3 pile was already there for me to take advantage of. So we take the match here in the first 4 games and progress to round 5. So I will see you in round 5. You could look at the end of the game here. There's not a lot to see. It was just really a lot of one-way traffic ever since I trashed that quickly with the count. We opened with a bit of contrasting style. I went for the count right away, whereas my opponent went for the university right away. And I think going for the count turned out better here. The trashing, I knew count would be key early up, just to deal with the mountebank. It can't completely deal with the mountebank, but it can help a lot. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next round.